Mark, if you don't mind, we're gonna
Sorry.
call you back up to the stage
Okay.
with some wine.
I bring the wine this time.
We would need some wine also.
Yeah,
to
I
be
think the
honest.
wine starts.
You had a long travel, I hear. Okay, great.
I can highly recommend the water and the wine so far, so we're getting there. Okay.
Okay. So the skeleton of the discussion that we had before with Mark, Mr. Minister, was the idea of foreign direct investment as sort of a key driver for sustainable economic growth. We had a conversation with Mr. Margaritis Chinas already about sort of the general trend of Greece emerging into the global investment map. We heard some of Mark's thoughts about why Greece sort of became a more attractive destination. And we really commented on something that I think is really missed by Greeks on a daily basis, which is how fast of a turnover the country made over the past decade, from the depths of sort of the austerity crisis and poverty to sort of confidently taking up the stage and attracting investments. So let's take it from there, and I'd love to have sort of a more fluid discussion between you two about why FDI is sort of the key to growth that is not only sort of beneficial for the country, but also inclusive, as we sort of mentioned in the previous conversation.
First of all, thank you for the invitation. And my colleagues, the Minister of Maritime Affairs, Shipping Industry, Mr. Plakiotakis, and my Deputy Minister from the Ministry of Development, Mr. Dimas, and all of you for being here and have a good conversation. And I'm very sorry I was a little bit late, but we came just right after the airport. We couldn't make it faster. These 3 years that now we're in this government, because we took over in the 7th of July of 2019, were really very interesting years, to be honest. Interesting for us, interesting for humankind in this planet, as it seems. Having interesting times, not always good. The Chinese have a proverb that says, I wish you not to live in interesting times. We are living to interesting times through 2010, and every year the interesting times are even more. So, but even under these terrible and difficult circumstances, I think Greece's performance these last 3 years make us proud. If when I started my term with Christos and Nikos Papathanasis and Yannis Sakiris, the whole team of the ministry, that day of the 9th of July of 2019 that we took the responsibility of this very important sector of the government, we would predict that in the next less than 3 years, FDIs such as Pfizer's, Microsoft, Digital Realty's, Amazon Web Services, Deloitte, Cisco, and various others would come to Greece, nobody would believe us. Most probably, they would laugh. But suddenly, this is the case, and I can tell you, even though I cannot announce FDIs before they are officially announced, that a lot are yet to come. The interest and the pipeline of the new FDIs for 2022 and 2023 is really marvelous. I see Mr. Labiris there from his previous position. We were working together with Taipei, and all the pipeline of the privatization was ongoing under his term, and now is accelerating. There seems that a huge interest about Greece economy has really started. Why? I will tell you my main thoughts about why. First of all, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, as a Prime Minister, is a very serious person that he's trying very hard to change the perception Greece had abroad for many decades. For many decades, if you would come to Greece to invest and you would say to your friends when you were in California, or you were in Germany, or you were in Portugal, or you were in the United Kingdom, and you would say to your friends and your colleagues, I have an idea to go to make some investment in Greece, most people would laugh or would try to tell you not to go. The main perception was that if you would choose to start an investment in Greece, you would face various problems, and at the end a failure would be in front. Our government, day one, worked very hard to change this perception. And we did it not with words, but with acts. One of the first foreign direct investments that we managed to attract was BlackRock's investment in 6 big hotels in Greece. This investment was stopped for various reasons under our bureaucracy. The people from BlackRock had contacted me and asked me a solution. We worked very hard. It was not an easy issue for our system. We found a way out very fast. They were super happy. They bought their hotels. Now they're going to buy even more because their first investment went really very well. When Pfizer came to my office and asked how they could do their investment in Greece, at that time they were examining 6 other European cities except Thessaloniki. We made a deal with them. They asked us to deliver this deal as fast as possible. The deal was made at the end of July of 2019 and have already finished our part early September 2019. On Monday I was in Thessaloniki with Pfizer's board and with Mr. Bourla, and the key person of this investment, the director of foreign investment of Pfizer, took the floor and said this was the fastest thing I've ever seen in my entire professional life, and I'm investing in almost 100 different countries. Then we implemented reforms, and we continue implementing reforms even under the pandemic in order to make our system less bureaucratic, much faster, digitalized as more as we can, with less taxes, less social contribution, and very transparent, as more transparent as we can. When foreign investors realized that Greece is a country with political stability, a member of Eurozone, in a very good location, and with people that want to make their life easier, they started to come. When the first came and was happy, BlackRock, then the second came and was happy, Pfizer, then the third came and was happy, Cisco, then Microsoft came and they were happy, then Digital Realty copied that, and the rest is history. I really believe that when you change the perception and you offer to the investor a stable environment, a predictable environment that they can calculate and do their business plan, why not to come to Greece?
For sure, Mr. Theoret, because it's my honor to be here, and Kalispera officially. As an investor for us in the technology space, I think what really changed, what's paying off over the last years, is the continuous investment in the education of the Greek population. I think we can see a lot of innovation that is happening even on the small level. And partly, I think the pandemic, the opportunity or the necessity to participate in the global environment has really opened up the door for highly educated, highly qualified people to participate in the global economy. I think that would have been impossible 10, 15 years ago. And I think that's something that is where the long-term investments, I think, are really paying off that we can see today.
Yes, the truth is the biggest change that has happened to Greece in the last 3 years is not only the government change, it's the change of the way the people think about investments. Some years ago, the people would oppose privatization, would oppose FDIs, would have many other ideas about how economy should work. Now, and I will give you the example of Ellinikon project. When I was the main speaker of New Democracy Parliament in Samaras government, during Samaras government in 2014, there was the tender about the Ellinikon project ongoing on the parliament. I was defending this tender, and we were accused as people that were trying to sell off public property, and this was a very bad thing to happen. When I came back to the government in 2019 and I had the authority of finish and deliver the Ellinikon project to the Greek people and to the investors. The only accusation I had was why we were losing time and we were not going faster. And this was the total reverse of the way people is thinking about FDI. And I think this is very important. In the digital sector, Greece has a lot of talent. We are working very hard with Mr. Dimas to increase this talent and to fix a very good environment to produce more of this talent in the country. You know that Chropi plays a place of the startup and the innovation, the digital society will be in place after no more than 2 years from now. The tender is almost finishing now. It will finish under 2022 for sure. And will help us integrate between the universities and the business community in a much more faster and productive way. And the experience of Pfizer that started for an investment of 200 jobs and now they've reached almost 700 jobs and they want to accelerate 1,000 jobs because they found a lot of good talent in Greece in this digital era. I think it's a very good example.
So you think it's a generational shift or is it a perception shift in the broader population?
Both. It is a generational shift because the people of young age don't follow all the ideas that we had during 80s and 90s. They are much more modern and they understand that they live in a very competitive world and they have to adjust themselves. And the older people also realize, Tsipras government made a lot of damages to the country, under my opinion, but it had some good effects. Ancient Greeks always saying there is not the ultimate bad. You can always find some good in the thing you perceive as bad. This was Syriza government. Syriza government closed the banks, implemented capital controls, tried to have a conflict with our lenders, reach a point of exiting euro, and we were saved at the last moment, implement huge austerity measures as a result of all this conflict, lost a lot of time in good years for Europe's economy, unfortunately, but it worked also as a vaccine. It made all these ridiculous ideas that were prevailing for decades in Greece, that everything should belong to the state and privatization is something like a treason against the country, to go far away. And this is overall good.
So sometimes you have to go to the valley to understand what the alternatives could look like.
Yes, you can see in a more severe way what is happening with countries from Eastern Europe. They experienced communism, they lost decades, but the countries that managed to exit of poverty and follow European Union standards, now they are much efficient and they have economies that grow very fast. Because these ideas cannot have any ground in their societies because of the experience they had in the past. In less doses, we took it in Greece.
So as investor, of course, stability and being able to count on parameters not changing too dramatically is critical. So you think the risks that we have seen 7 years ago, the population would never go back to that, getting to the brink of that we have seen there?
Greece, I think, is one of the less countries of risk, political risk, anymore in Europe. Not only because our party is in front by 10%, an average score in all the polls, and has a political authority, huge political authority, and especially the Prime Minister, but because even the opposition party, Syriza of 2022 is not Syriza of 2014. They have experienced their limits. They know that they have to follow European rules. So big surprises for investors would be very unlikely in Greece now. So the environment is very stable. And we can provide a very stable environment in the center of a very unstable neighborhood. The location is very good, and it's even better because we're the stable part of this good location, because you know all the Eastern Mediterranean is not so stable. So if you want to have an investment in this broader area, Greece would be the place to go.
We've seen in many countries a push into populism, and of course that's a worry for a lot of people when they think about where societies might go. More like the Central European side, but again, there are some other areas as well. How much is the democratic tradition of Greece something to count on for the future?
First of all, I will tell you an example. In the polytechnic schools, the technical schools, there is a lesson about how to calculate that the materials can stand in very high pressure. Let's say, for example, if you want to test, if you can use some metal for building airplane, you have to test in front, in the laboratory, if this metal can really stand in the very hard conditions, or you could put the life of the passengers in danger. I think Greece passed this test in the most severe social circumstances that someone can imagine. I will give you an example. I was a Minister of Health in 2014, and I was watching a video from a colleague, Minister of Labour in Italy at that time, that they had to vote a law in the Italian parliament to freeze the pensions. And she was announcing the law freezing the pensions in Italy with tears. She was crying, very, very sad and very afraid about how difficult this was for Italy. And they were afraid that this law would make their society to explode. When I was watching her, I realized how difficult things we have done, because we have voted in our parliament some months ago to reduce pensions by 50%. And our social temperature was huge, riots were everywhere, populism prevailed with Syriza Anel government. We reached this referendum, so-called, of July 2015, but you see what happened. Our democracy survived, the society managed to find ways to stand one another. We shifted our country, and here's where we are now. So we're tested in the most difficult circumstances anybody could imagine. I have worries because the crisis of inflation that is now in front, and the energy crisis, and the effects of the Ukraine war and the sanctions will really hurt our societies in Europe. But I think in this new era of populism that will come eventually into European societies, Greece has already the vaccine I was telling you before. The people in Greece now are much more mature. They will be very angry, they will be very furious about what is happening, but they know now that there is no an easy way out of the big problems, because they have experienced it. And this will save us, I really believe, of the huge populism that I'm afraid is in front in Europe. Because other societies are not so well prepared, and they will not be so easy to deal with this effects of all the things that is happening now.
Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Perfect. So, shifting a little bit, Mr. Minister, to infrastructure investments in the country. I know that, of course, in the big cities, it is easy for people to be participating in the global environment. Traffic is easy. Internet connections are easy. I just came back from a travel to Asia. I was very impressed with, even in remote locations, high-speed internet was available. And it's shifted the environment where digital nomads living on islands, diving during the day and participating in the global economy during the night. With Greece geography, And lovely islands, by the way. I remember Milos very, very well, many, many years ago. What's the plan to integrate not only the population centers, but really the more remote areas into the global economy?
This is maybe the most important challenge we have for our near future. Greece, under the world that has been born after the pandemic, has a huge potential of attracting investment in the digital nomad era. I mean, now many people realize that they can work far distance, and many of them are thinking that it's better working in a good environment than in an ugly environment. And with the laws of taxation we voted, non-dom and less taxation, many people are thinking of coming to Greece. The bottleneck now is the level of our network in the whole of the country. In our RRF, we have put a lot of investments in this area, and I'm happy to say that we have attracted some significant FDIs in this area. Πώς είναι οπτικές σύνδεσμες εδώ?
Optic fibers.
Optic fibers. So I think that after the most 3 years, the network will be totally different and much better than you can see now, almost everywhere in Greece. But even now, in most of the places, you can find really good network to work. So if you are thinking of coming to work from Milos, you can try it. And the taxation is very, very low.
So I should start shopping for places in Milos or Santorini.
Yes, but you see the real estate has risen so much this recent 2 years, and one of the reasons is this potential. Because people realize now that more people in the future will work this way. And Greece, make no mistake on that, can be something like Florida and California of Europe. I mean, Florida for the people of older age and pensions, but California also for younger people that want to find fun and job at the same time. And if you want to find fun and job at the same time, I think Greece is the place in European Union.
And fantastic food. So.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, both of you. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think it is an undisputable fact that the FDI agenda has sort of been opened in Greece. Now, the second step and sort of the challenge here would be, can Greece turn this into an ecosystem for growth so that it can become the sort of California that the minister sort of announced? This is what we're going to be discussing in the next panel. We're going to take 2 to 3 minutes just to mic our speakers. If anybody wants a top up, I think it's a good time. And we'll be right back very soon.